You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Hello, and welcome to the special edition of GHS-TV's award-winning talk show, Crosstalk. I'm your host, Sarah Mayers, filling in for Reneem and Ma'am. We're coming to you from Beale Street in downtown Memphis. Each week in this time slot, we take a look at different issues, personalities, and events that affect you and our community. Memphis has nearly 200 years of history surrounding it, with landmarks all over our city. Today, we'll be taking a tour of our city, visiting Graceland and the new Beale Street Landing. Joining me today as I take a tour of the city's most famous street is John Shivers, Director of Beale Street Management. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Shivers.
Thank you all for coming.
Shall we start our tour down the street? Let's go. So Beale Street was founded in 1841 and has gone through many renovations in its time. Can you tell us about the history of the street?
It has, like you said, it was founded in 1841. It was named after basically a forgotten war hero at the time, and it actually used to be called Beale Avenue, and then slowly it changed back to Beale Street. It's definitely gone through many renovations in the time, just through what was going on in Memphis at the time. It's gone through some very highs and some low points. It started out as really popular for trading of goods and stuff based off the riverboats on the river, and then that kind of declined, and then it kind of picked back up, and then it declined again when yellow fever epidemic hit Memphis, and then it declined again, and then it kind of picked back up, and then in the late 80s is when it was really fully renovated to what it is today, and then luckily we haven't seen a decline again, and we're still going strong.
Well, the new Daisy just came across its 74th birthday, and it's had some great acts in its time.
Correct. Yeah, it's been a long time, and there's many stories between the old Daisy and the new Daisy operating on this street, and the amount of musicians that have played on there is pretty remarkable.
Well, what events are actually hosted here on Beale Street?
On Beale Street, there's a lot of events. There's the Beale Street Wine Race, there's our New Year's Eve event, there's a lot of car shows and weekly bike nights and country concerts, and a whole mixture of different events that we offer to the public that try to appeal to a little bit of everybody.
Well, looking at this street now, it's definitely a sight to see, a beautiful sight to see. How are you keeping the streets clean of Beale Street?
It's a daily and a constant struggle. There's a team of employees that are constantly cleaning the street on a daily basis and trying to do our best just to keep up with the crowds and the amount of trash that all the crowds and the business generate every day.
We're right at A. Schwab's. I believe that it's the oldest business here on Beale Street. Can you tell us about it?
It is the oldest business on Beale Street. It's the oldest business in Memphis. And it used to actually originally house a Piggly Wiggly back in the late 1840-45 before Schwab's opened in 1876.
Well, what does it entail inside when you walk in the doors?
You can get anything you want out of Schwab. The saying is, if you can't find it at Schwab's, you don't need it. So they have a little bit of anything that you're going to want.
Well, as you're walking on the street, I noticed all the brass notes. How does one achieve a brass note?
We have a board that selects brass note recipients once a year, and we come up with a list of who we want, and then it's all taken on a vote. And then at the end of the year, we come up with our list of usually 12 a year, and then we select those people and notify them, and then we have a big ceremony for each person that is awarded a brass note. Well,
Mr. Shivers, thank you so much for taking us on a tour of the street today. It's been great seeing the past and the future of the street.
Right, thank you.
We need to take a short break, but when we return, we'll be visiting the city's most favorite mansion. Hello, and welcome to the special edition of Crosstalk. I'm your host, Sarah Mayers, filling in for Reneem and Ma'am. Right now, I am at Elvis Presley's Graceland, visited by thousands of people each year. Joining me today is Libby Perry from Elvis Enterprises. Miss Perry, thank you so much for coming on to our show today.
Thank you for having me. It's a joy to be here.
Well, let's start on the history of this house. Elvis wasn't the first owner.
That's right, and few fans realize that before they come and get the full history lesson. Elvis bought this home in 1957 when he was only 22 years old, and it was for about $100,000 actually. And on the memo line of the check, he actually wrote the Moore property. So this was part of a 600-acre farm originally built and owned by the Moore family of Memphis. And the name actually comes from, the name Graceland actually comes from one of their favorite nieces, Grace. And when Elvis bought the home when he was 22, he loved the name so much, so he decided to keep it.
Well, what do you think that this landmark given to our city?
So much, really. I mean, it's a priceless landmark, and it just adds priceless culture to the citizens of Memphis and the Mid-South. You know, hundreds of thousands of fans and Memphis visitors come every year to come see the King's Castle, as we like to call it, and it's just given kind of a landmark like what we're talking about today here on the show to the Mid-South and music culture and pop culture.
Welcome back to this special show of Crosstalk. As you can see, we are back downtown at Memphis's Beale Street Landing. Joining me today is Dorchelle Spence, Vice President of Riverfront Development. Thank you so much for coming on to our show today.
I am delighted to be here, Sarah, and it's a pleasure to meet you.
Well, Ms. Spence, congratulations. Beale Street Landing was recently acclaimed Best Marina in Port by an international architectural program. What does this recognition mean for the landing?
Well, it's really cool to be designated as the best in the world and to have professionals from all over the world within the field of architecture to come in and judge the landing here based on its design and say that we are the very best. So it means a lot to us. It means we did a lot of things right, but it means we had a really talented designer.
It did. Well, the landing is it's very new. How did the plans come about?
Well, it started as an international design competition, which is we sent out an invitation to say we want to build a dock here in the city that's a multi-use facility in addition to being able to dock riverboats. What ideas do you have? And we opened it up to architectural students on the college level. We opened it up to professionals who have been, in the field for ages to see what the opportunities were for Memphis. And we did a blind competition, which meant we didn't know if the submittals were students or professionals, and we didn't know where they came from. And in the end, we had 171 entries from 24 states and 27 countries outside of the U.S.
Well, how did the process come about of finding the correct design and architecture of the landing?
Well, we used a jury. So we used professionals from both urban planning, architecture, and design to come together and judge all 171 entries. They narrowed it down to 5, and we gave a stipend, a $10,000 stipend to the top 5 entries to then flush out, if you will, their designs and to come to Memphis and present what they thought should go here.
Well, the landing has incorporated the landscape and the environment with, on the hump, there is grass on it. Why did you keep the environment in the landing?
Well, we wanted to fit Beale Street Landing into its natural habitat. What we didn't want to do is to build something huge and big to compete with the Mississippi River. We have the 4th longest river in the world right here, and Memphis sits at its widest point. So why compete with such a natural asset? Instead, we wanted something to complement it, and we wanted the lines to flow like the river flows. We wanted it to fit into the grassland. We have 250 acres of parkland along the riverfront, and so we needed it all to sort of fit together. And our designers did a beautiful job with that.
Thank you for watching this special edition of Crosstalk. If you haven't taken the time to tour our Bluff City, I highly recommend it. Remember, Crosstalk can be seen at 9:30 a.m. and 7 p.m. on Mondays, 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. on Thursdays, and 7:30 p.m. on Sundays. And for more information about our programming, go to GHS-TV.org, where we are streaming 24 hours a day. And feel free to follow us on Twitter and Facebook. I'm Sarah Mayers, and from all of us here at GHS-TV, thank you for watching Crosstalk, and I hope to see you again.